So we have the NCAA Women's College Basketball scores for Tuesday, January 13th, 2025. So we didn't have many games on the table. We had a few big games. A big game here in the Big 12. We had Houston and number 17 Texas Tech. That was the only ranked matchup today, with even one ranked, with just even any game involving a ranked opponent. And Texas Tech was ranked, trying to beat their in-state rival Houston. Houston is new to Big 12, but Houston, some of these players for Houston may have known, well, we want to show up for Houston. And Houston has a new coach, too. Houston, is kind of like, plays actually well, but they just don't have, like, the best talent yet. But Texas Tech is not one of those teams with the top talent either. They just find a way to work in Chris DeGerlich's system, players that fit her system well, and, like, new assistant coaches that, fit her style and what she wants to do, And you can see that now because before, people were saying that Texas Tech assistant coaches, they were kind of like the reason why Texas Tech didn't have the success they did, Maybe their assistant coaches, maybe, weren't the best, And now you're seeing that now with now the way they're doing now, things now. 71-59, number 17 Texas Tech. They go to 6-0 in the Big 12, 19 overall. They had a weaker non-conference, but they had Mississippi State, Arkansas, two really solid marquee teams, and then in there, and then which usually you didn't see Texas Tech like before even any power conference opponents at all, any of them. They were kind of like the LSU route where they had a tough conference, they just went with their tough conference division. Nope, and then they beat Baylor, ranked Baylor's. And they're still ranked, so then and they're ranked now, so that's still a really good win. Cornell, and what brought them ranked was that win or the win against Baylor. Cornell defeats SUNY in non-division 106-27. That was a one Eastern game. This was an odd time. It wasn't like a kids or education day game, like say like 11 a.m. Eastern game or 10 a.m. Like not 10 a.m., but they have 11 a.m. Eastern time games for kids education day. It wasn't that, which, you could have thought it might have been. Even the local schools in a few neighboring cities even. And even if they didn't have full attendance, maybe they have like room for, say, maybe their max attendance is, say, 2,000 at their Cornell. And they have like 1,000, there. Something like that, So, maybe they have kids from the whole school, from neighboring schools as a whole, I could see that, like elementary schools as a whole, I could see it for the most part. So, and then East Carolina defeated Tulsa, even they wanted to, but they didn't. But it's an odd time though, I guess. But maybe SUNY, maybe they did it so they could travel their same day. They travel earlier in the morning, and then travel at bus back like later, later after the game, like after they do bus after the game, they able to bus back, to campus same day without needing a hotel. Maybe, which would make sense and why it could be at that time. And then East Carolina defeated Tulsa 78-48. With in the first, they were up 7 after 1. East Carolina was then up 10 after 2. But then they just blew out in the third and fourth. They started to get more sophisticated. Up 19 after 3, and then up 31 after 4. And then Western Illinois, the top team in the Ohio Valley Conference, they're 6-1 this year. They're 14-2 overall, so really, really solid record. And if they're not in the mid-major top 25, they definitely are. I haven't checked out the mid-major top 25 in a while, but I'm sure they're definitely up there, definitely in there, in it. 74-61 Eastern Line. The Xavier 71-61 over DePaul. Two bomb tiers, big in Big 12 in the Big East, but but Xavier did have a big, huge run. They were down actually they were down by 11 in the, but then they won 29-8 when that big, huge fourth quarter, and Xavier beats DePaul by 10. South Florida with that big, huge 19-point fourth quarter win. And even though they won the first by 6 and lost the third by 8. It was a 2-point swing, and then the fourth quarter tied, so South Florida wins. Knocks off UTSA. South Florida UTSA was 3-0 in the American Conference against the American Conference opponents. They fought a 3-1. Tulane gets a nice win over Temple. Both teams are not the top tiers in the American, but it's a nice solid win for Tulane though. They got that 758. Florida Atlantic, a nice win, even though it was against an 0-5 team. Gives Florida Atlantic some confidence in win with an 88-64 win. Georgetown, a nice solid win over St. John's, 59-34. In North Texas, 75-64 over Memphis. And then on the 14th, we have some big games on Wednesday. And I will do some whip around on Wednesday. I will, but I will do some whip around Wednesday. But we have number 3 UCLA at Minnesota at Eastern on Big Ten plus, or Big Ten plus. I do want to watch that game on its own because I'm a Minnesota fan. But there's some kids' day earlier in the day. I will do that for an hour, and I do want to see what my eBay action is at for those puzzles, jigsaw puzzles. That's ending at 12:10 Eastern. So, and then I'll be doing whip around for roughly 2 hours. I'll be doing that on the 5 Eastern, so the second half of the 5 Eastern games. Then the start of the 6 Easterns. And then I'll bring in some of them. And then I'll do, and then I will maybe have some of the 5:30 Easterns. And then, but yeah, I don't know if I'll have any of the 6 Eastern. I might. And then when I'm done, I'll have about, which is roughly about 10 Eastern. I'll have some of the 8:30 Eastern starts, and then the 9 Eastern starts. So I'll do, which roughly, actually the whip run will not be very long though. It'll only be an hour afterwards. It'll be an hour, if that, because I'll be having actually it'll be about an hour. Because I have Wyoming State about the fight in the fourth quarter in that one. I'll be having the fourth quarter in that one. Like maybe a late third, early fourth in that one. After I talk about the scores from earlier in the day. And then I'll be doing Baylor, and then I'll be doing the second half of Baylor. I'm rating Baylor at Utah. I'm rating Utah State Corral. And I'll be doing Utah State, Fresno State. I'll be doing the second quarter of that one, and then the 9:30 Eastern start, 6:30 Pacific, and I'll be doing I'll be doing the third quarter of that one, and then the first half roughly UNLV and San Jose State. So that's what I'll be doing. So not a ton of whip around, but I'll be doing some kids' education whip around for the first hour of which is basically Metro-Atlantic Athletic Conference whip around. But there is some Metro-Atlantic Athletic Conference. Majority of it will be that. The most, not majority of it, but 4 games will be Metro-Atlantic Athletic Conference. And then there's 3 of them that start 11 Eastern, 1 at 11:30 Eastern. And then a 10 game at 11 Eastern. A Patriot game. And a MEC. A Mid-American Conference game at 11 Eastern as well. So